This this is the Impressions Exchange Podcast.
Impressions Exchange Podcast.
Where all topics impacting the graphic imaging and printing industry are addressed via in-depth news coverage, analysis, and timely interviews.
Hi, I'm Denise Gustafson, Editorial Director for Printing United Alliance, and the guest host for the special Printing Impressions podcast series in celebration of Women's History Month, highlighting women in the printing industry. During this series, I'll have the opportunity to talk with women from all segments of the industry about their experiences and their journey as a woman in the industry. Today, it's my pleasure to welcome Natalie Neyenesch. She's Vice President of Operations with Neyenesch. So Natalie, welcome.
Thank you, Denise. Happy to be here.
I'm so really glad to have you on the show. I was actually at your shop probably about 2 years ago touring. It was great to be able to see it in person.
Sweet. I'm glad you're familiar with us.
My first question is to get us started is, as Vice President of Operations, what do you do for Neyenesch?
I wear a lot of hats, actually. So I oversee all of our operations from press to bindery to shipping and fulfillment, and really just try to simplify and streamline and help our managers to make things flow through the shop quicker and easier.
Now, judging from your last name, you might have something to do with the company itself. So I'm guessing you are part of the family-owned company. So did you actually have a choice to come in? How did you get started in it?
That's a good question. So I am a family member. I'm a fourth generation family member. My great grandfather started the business, and I did have a choice. My parents were super easygoing about the whole situation and didn't put any pressure on me at all as far as if I wanted to get involved in the business or go my own route and do something else.
So why did you choose to go into the business?
I had, as a kid or as a teenager, I had no intentions of getting into the business. I mean, I spent my days after school here when my mom would pick us up and bring us back here, and me and my sister would just hang out and play around, and my summers here if I was answering the phones or filing or whatever. So I did spend a lot of time here, and I really didn't think I would get into this as a career. I actually went away to college for criminal justice, so I truly had no intentions of getting into the printing industry. And after school, I had an opportunity to go work at another printing company out in Phoenix, Courier Graphics. So I had that opportunity, I took it, and I truly did just fall in love with it and realize that printing is in my veins and it just comes naturally to me.
So criminal justice, huh?
Yes.
So I guess the other question is, have you been able to use that degree at all in what you're doing?
No, not really. No. There's just like fun little facts I know here and there.
Which is never a bad thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So how has working in the printing industry really helped to contribute to your own personal growth? Because I mean, obviously, you've worked now in a couple different print shops, Courier Graphics and now here. How has that really helped you to grow personally and even professionally?
Personally, I honestly would say, like, at the early stages of my career, I would have classified myself as being shy, but I've really noticed, like, I've had to step out of my comfort zone time and time again, and I challenge myself to do that, and I've just put myself in those situations that maybe would have been uncomfortable to me in the past, whether it's just standing up in front of a bunch of people and speaking or whatever that may be. I definitely think this career path has forced me to get out of my comfort zone and grow as an individual.
That's really good. What kind of qualities has this really helped you develop besides the confidence and getting out of your shell?
Besides confidence and getting out of my shell, I would say just like a problem solver. I've had to become a very good problem solver and be solution oriented and say, okay, if this is happening, we're going to pivot this way, and just kind of thinking on my toes in that aspect.
Really, really good. As a woman in the printing industry, as you know, it's very, very heavily male dominated. It still is. It's getting better, but there's still a lot of men that are in the industry. How do you empower other women within your company, within the industry, especially in this manufacturing field?
I've actually been pretty focused on hiring women this past year, and we're at a point where we have the most women in senior management roles, which is really awesome. And I think it's just like giving these ladies the tools to succeed and encouraging them to, like I have, get in those situations and challenge yourself. And it is manufacturing, but you can get involved, ask questions, shadow people. I'm always encouraging to shadow other people and really learn how things work and come together.
Now you say you've gotten a lot of women in leadership roles. Why is it important to have women in those roles?
Absolutely. I think that we just bring a different set of viewpoints to the table and we're able to say, well, have you thought about it this way? And having these women in those roles of leadership, I think it really is great diversity and allows us to just become a well rounded, better company as a whole.
Have you seen changes within the company itself now that you have these new hires in?
A little bit here and there, yeah. It's funny. I think people are getting used to it, but I've been bringing women in who have no print background. So it's nice to have these women from come from different industries and bring a new set of ideas to the table and kind of challenge us to say, why have you been doing it this way? Have you thought about this way? Because we all get stuck in our ways, and especially in printing, it's such an old trade that certain things are done like this since the end of time, and bringing new people in challenges that.
That's very true. In some ways, no matter what business you're in, a lot of times you're doing things. Well, why are you doing it this way? Well, that's the way it's always been done.
Exactly.
But is that the right way? Is it the best way? Maybe it
Right.
is. Maybe it's not. But to have that outsider view, that other perspective is always good to have. And I think women have a unique perspective sometimes.
Absolutely. That's what I'm definitely noticing, and like I said, just bringing that different, unique viewpoint and solution to the table is always great.
Now, looking back on your career, because obviously you've had multiple jobs, it's not like you just jumped into VP of operations. At least I would assume you didn't. You worked your way through. Are there specific role models that you've had through the industry that really help you get to where you are today?
Absolutely. Besides my parents, who do play a huge role, and like I said, put no pressure on me to come into this. They're always so supportive. Besides them, like I mentioned, I worked at Courier Graphics in Phoenix, and Pam Carrot, the owner there, she really gave me an awesome opportunity to learn outside of my family and just set myself up for success by learning the basics and seeing if it was something I was interested in truly. And that's when I did realize, like, no, this is for me, and I'm going to go back to San Diego and work for my family, and it's been great. So I really do attribute a lot of my success to her and my parents.
How important was it for you to go and learn outside your parents' company?
I think it was truly like the best thing I could have ever done. I would encourage anyone, and no matter what the business is, if you have a family business, to go learn outside of the family and be treated like a regular employee, no special treatment, really learn the other side. It gives you a lot of appreciation and insight on how it is to just be a regular employee. Because no matter what, if you're at a family business, you get treated a little differently. And I think it was so important for me to see the other side and learn outside of my family, because working with family can be challenging, and to learn from somebody else was really great. I think it was an awesome opportunity for me.
That's what I've heard from a couple of people that are in similar situations. Some have not had the opportunity to work outside, and that was one of the regrets that they've had. So I wish I could have worked somewhere else before I came
I
back home.
Yes, I cannot tell you how much I would encourage somebody to do that.
Good advice. I will keep that in mind the next time I encounter somebody. Tell them to go out, go spread
Yes,
your wings for a little while,
experience something different.
especially since you were there since a young age. I mean, like you said, you were there after school. I mean, you knew probably all the great hiding spots where everything was going on. I mean, you really knew the business in a
Yes,
way.
yes, absolutely.
Changing our topic a little bit to talk a little bit about women and women's roles. And there are some stereotypes when it comes to women in the workplace. So, how does diversity in the workplace, especially gender diversity, benefit the printing industry?
I think we just have to like kick those stereotypes of it being all men running the show out of here, change that mindset. And the more women you have in these leadership roles, the sooner or later it's just going to be the norm. And I can't wait for that to be the case.
Mhm. But how do we get more people in? How do we
No,
convince them that it's not an old boys network?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And like we go to a lot of events and network in the creative community in San Diego. We sponsor a lot of different creative events and just putting our name out there, showing that we are young women who have like-minded creative ideas and just showing them that it's honestly like the creative process that I think a lot of people forget about in the printing industry. It really is so much fun and like you're able to put something together, bring it to life. I really like to appeal to that side. I think a lot of people are in that creative realm.
And I've said this to a number of people, printing industry is the best kept secret out there.
Absolutely. I've heard that a time or two.
Because yeah, like you said, there's so much creativity within the industry. And it doesn't have to be you're talking just about you're going into the press room, or you could be in design, you could be in sales, you could be in all these different roles within the company. But I don't think we have those conversations enough to help to get some of those more diverse voices and people to even start looking at the printing industry as a viable career option.
I completely agree. And it's funny because when I meet people, they say, "What do you do?" And I say, "I'm in commercial printing." They're like, "Okay." And that's where the conversation dies. It's just not well known enough. And if people do know about it, they think it's a dying trade. So, really, to change that narrative and talk about it more and what opportunities are allowed in this industry and get the word out there more.
Yeah, they think about newspapers, they think about books. And I
Mhm.
mean, there's so many newspapers that you hear are closing. So
Right.
think about that as like, well, newspapers are closing. That's what you do. So you print newspapers. So you must be going out of business. It must be a bad career option. But there's so much more that's involved that people just don't understand.
That's so true. We just have to get out there more and share more about the industry.
And I think one of the problem is that print is ubiquitous. I mean, we touch it throughout the day, from packaging to direct mail, all the different things that we touch and handle just as a consumer. And because we're just so used to seeing it, we don't think about where it comes from. It just appears.
That's so true. That is so true. And some people are like, well, what do you do? Or what is that? What are those things that you print? I'm like, all the stuff in your mailboxes, the boxes on the shelf at Target. It's endless.
And that's when the light bulb goes on. And for a lot of
Mhm,
people, they start
mhm.
realizing, oh, that's a big industry.
It is. But like you said, it is the best kept secret.
Hmm. Definitely. So obviously you've had a career within the printing industry, but you've also have a personal life. I know with women that can be challenging because there's certain things that we as women might want to do. We might want to have a family and kids, but how do you balance the personal life with the work career?
To be totally transparent, I'm struggling right now with that. It is a challenge. I've stepped into this role of VP of operations and before that I was in sales and there's a lot of flexibility in sales and making that switch now I'm really trying to find that work life balance and like I said I'm struggling, I'm can easily be here for 10 hours a day and then realize oh I'm not going to make it to the gym tonight or something like that, and just really having to tell myself like make the time because your mental health and your health is so important and I just have to set aside that time and make that promise to myself that I am going to go ahead and go to the gym and do whatever I need to do.
But then the question is there that guilt now sitting in the back of your head that,
Absolutely.
and I think that's the toughest part of it.
It is. And someone just said it to me the other day. There's always going to be work. It's never ending. There's always something coming across my desk. And I think my thing is I truly don't ever feel like I'm caught up because it's endless. It is endless. And so it's easy for me to stay here all day and keep going when I really need to say, okay, it's quitting time. I gotta go home and have a life too.
Yeah, when you get up in the dark and you go home in the dark, there's something wrong with that.
Yeah. Yeah, there is. It's just it builds up on you. You can't keep doing that forever.
Hmm. I mean, obviously, you don't want to burn out because you are
Right.
still young. That's the
Right.
last thing you want to do.
I know, and I'm very conscious of that these last couple weeks. Like I just have to tell myself if I'm gonna leave at 5 o'clock, I'm gonna leave at 5 o'clock. So I am really trying to work on that.
What are other ways that you're finding that have been working for you to have that better work-life balance?
I think celebrating the successes and celebrating the wins and taking the time to step away and say, wow, we did that really well, guys. Like, I'm so proud of us, and whatever that may be. And as a company, and trying to celebrate our employees and have lunches and all that fun stuff and just show everybody that we appreciate them. I think to take the time to step away and not just be a workhorse all day long type of thing.
That's good. That's probably one of the hardest things to do is to celebrate the wins because we're always looking for the next thing.
Yep. Yep.
And
Absolutely.
and also finding time to take the time for ourselves, whether you're male or female at that point, because again, there's always work. There's always something there.
I definitely see that in our team. It's easy to get caught up in the fact that there's always more work to do, but you do have to take a step back every now and then.
In some ways, that's always been the mindset just in, I guess, in the US that, the longer hours you work, the better you must be as an employee.
Mhm.
I mean, that has come up. That's how it was maybe for the boomers, maybe for other age groups, but it has been changing because there's some of the younger generations that they don't want to do that.
Yeah, I think definitely that's been changing, and the stereotype about that has changed. And just like something simple, like take your vacations, like I feel like there's so many people who feel like can't or something, but that time is so important for you, for your health.
To rest and relax and to recharge
To reset, yeah, I feel like I always know when I need a good reset, and I try and be very mindful of that.
and making sure that everybody else has that same flexibility.
It is so easy to just get caught up in the day to day
Mhm.
and not take that time for yourself.
So, a little bit more about community and networking. Are there any strategies that you've found to be that are effective for networking and building professional relationships within the industry?
Yeah, we are a part of a peer group with about 10 other printing companies nationwide, and we meet twice a year. And I have learned so much. Every time I go, I come back with just so many things I want to do and so much knowledge. And it really is a great group of people to bounce ideas off of and just ask for advice. And I've really enjoyed getting to know everyone in that community and feeling confident enough to ask that advice and everyone having each other's back.
So, is it
Um,
more business advice? I'm guessing.
Business advice, yes.
Okay.
And then as far as like networking with outside of the industry, we go to a lot of creative events. I think I mentioned that before, and we're just huge supporters of the San Diego creative community. And meeting a lot of people through that, networking has been really beneficial for us.
Why is networking so important?
Getting your name out there, and we want to be the San Diego preferred printer, and that's why we show up to these events. And when people think of printing, we want them to think of Neyenesch printers.
Taking it to a personal level, why is it important for you?
This company is like a sibling to me. It is like an extension of my family, and I take so much pride in it,
Mhm.
and I just want the name to continue on.
In conclusion, one of the questions I really love asking women is knowing what you know now, with all the experiences that you've been with the different company, the two companies you've worked for, what advice would you give yourself if you were just starting out now in the printing industry? Because things have changed even since you started.
I would say ask all the questions. I don't care if you think they're dumb questions because they're not. Ask all the questions and just get involved in any point you can. Ask if you can help out in different departments. That's how you'll learn the basics and learn and just be such more well-rounded and educated person in this field.
So when you're talking about all the questions, what are some of those questions?
I mean, when I first started, I feel like there printing has so much lingo, and so much of the lingo is like, well, it could be this, it could be that, it could be there's like 4 names for everything. And there's so many exceptions, like, oh, you do this time, but not this time. Don't be afraid to say, well, what does that mean? And why do we do it that way? And I think just asking those questions, you never know what conversation it will lead you to.
So be humble, be willing to learn.
Mhm. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, Natalie, it was a pleasure to chat with you today.
You too. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I'll have to, if I'm out your way again, I'll have to be sure to stop and see you guys again.
Yes, swing by, definitely.
Will do. All right. Thanks again.
Thank you.